Hi friends, my name is Host Eric, and I am a YouTuber who talks about stuff, and who yesterday put up this video called Jordan Peterson is Not Smart. The basic central message of which was, I, Eric, am much smarter than Jordan Peterson. Now, I've got over like 6,000 videos, and so I repeat a lot of concepts ultimately. And certainly I've made this video before in many incarnations about different people. And what these videos that when I do this kind of video, it's a multi-layered demonstration explanation of things, right? So it's like I'm both demonstrating my own frame bias, projection frame, but also analyzing that process concurrently in a way that basically makes it impossible to meta up over the argumentation style I'm using, and it makes it inconceivable for anybody that I choose to aim my targets at to walk away unscathed, because they're not even there. They're not Jordan Peterson's not responding to me at all. But of course, the main reason I do this is twofold. One, I'm in a bit of a fighty mood or something, feeling provocative, or feeling like pissed off about something or whatever. And of course, two, because they get a lot more views when you include somebody like Jordan Peterson, who people have a strong opinion about anyway. Now, the thing is, what you get to see in the comments then is what happens when people don't want to engage with what I'm saying at all, okay? And it's very revelatory about cognitive functions in general. If you look down this 84 comments here, just look a little deeper. Fascinating thinking here. My broad sweep is the operates from a parental frame. Well, it's a TE frame of sorts, telling other people how to take care of their stuff. So many people need a daddy these days and are drawn to them as if he's that commodity. Especially the masses is clever packaging. In some sense, this seems like an NI kind of comment here, right? Regardless of whatever personality type this person is. This is a very NI comment, and it's sort of making that fundamental attribution bias that I talked about, which is, I don't think Jordan Peterson is that aware of what he's doing, really. He's aware of, I can see when he is aware of what he's doing, and the stuff that he thinks he's being sneaky about, he's not being sneaky about at all, in my opinion. He's just, and it's not necessary for him to be sneaky about it, so I don't know. Now, Niebuhr here says, I think that just because you're a high TI user, it doesn't mean you are by default highly skilled justifier of your points and good at argumentation. It demands practice and humbleness, just like you said, but the way JP operates, I would say he is INTP. So I was feeling sassy earlier. I put rather a sassy comment in response to this, in which I said, somebody else said, yes, JP is definitely an INTP. I said, well, if he's an INTP, why is he so much shittier at arguing than I am? Is it just my unique personal experience in debate? If you don't think he's so much shittier at arguing, then you're so shitty yourself at arguing that you've lost all ability to distinguish quality in argumentation. If, on the other hand, you think it's my particular experience, then that's consistent with my assertion that I represent a unique confluence of multiple factors, foundationally among them type, but conditional upon many other necessary factors too. If that last fits your affirmation, then aren't you just saying I actually am a special genius of some sort, in which case, why not just back the winning horse? Niebuhr actually responded to this with, I believe you're better at arguing due to experience and learned skill. Okay, well, the thing is, what people who try to make that sort of statement don't get is that people aren't better at arguing. People successfully make better arguments or don't. And the only meaningful way that we can adjudicate truth or what we should agree about communicatively is via communicative logic. So, essentially, there's not any meaningful distinction between being the best debater and being the most correct person and being the smartest person. The point of this video is to define smart in a provocative way that challenges people's presumptions about Jordan Peterson. Because people have no problem, in general, affording him this status of specialness and importance and significance, And he doesn't have to talk at all about his own specialness or importance or significance because everybody else is talking about it for him, right? But just imagine for a second, what would it look like if I actually was basically the smartest, most correct person on YouTube, at least? And I think basically I am. I mean, you could toss out David Berlinski. He's certainly a very smart guy. I wouldn't throw him out of intellectual bed for eating crackers wrongly. But, and somebody did ask me, well, who do you respect or whatever? Who's right? The thing is, but, okay, so let's imagine what I'm saying is true, though. Imagine a world in which what I was saying were true. What would this person look like? And how would they approach that problem? So, let's say it were true that these grandiose claims I'm making are grounded in a unbendable factual truth. That if we were to review a bunch of different people on YouTube, looking very, very hard for people who are less subject to correction than me, we'd have a very difficult time doing it, who also talk about things about which one might be corrected, of course. So, if that were to be the case, how would that person act? Well, they'd act kind of exactly like me, which is, most of the time I just don't even think about it really. I'm not comparing myself to other people. The thing is, I may have a strong opinion about Jordan Peterson, but I never fucking watched the guy. I have watched enough of his videos. I think at this point to have my position down and my reference, my examples and stuff. I already got my repertoire. What do I need to watch more of the guy for? It's not like he's got anything to teach me. You say, well, Eric, that's horrible. Everybody has stuff to learn from everybody. Yes, that's true. Which means there's no reason for me to seek it out, particularly from Jordan Peterson, unless he's special in terms of having things to teach me. And he's not. I'm talking about similar subject areas, but doing a worse job than I'm doing. And, I mean, the thing is, we can try to misframe it as, no, Eric, you're just undervaluing his frame. No, I'm saying his frame is misnamed and misunderstood as intelligence or smartness. And unfortunately, being smart is absolutely not at all what it's cracked up to be. Okay? So, to be the smartest guy on YouTube, what do I have to also be? Super ineffective, super inefficient, super busy being the smartest guy on YouTube and not anything else, talking all the time, answering all kinds of fucking stupid things that people say, which, they get increasingly stupid to me because, of course, I've heard them before, and these people have not encountered them before. They're not even aware of the fact that I've heard their stupid shit a million times before. It sounds like this is sort of a good philosopher metric. We still need a brain power metric that is decoupled from philosophical adeptness. Well, we need a problem solving, a way to evaluate people's ability to solve problems within various situations or contexts, right? But to call that brain power is fine. It does involve, but that's not distinguishing between any other kind of attention, which is a form of brain power. I think it's best to call it, practical. I mean, it's basically just solvency. It's like the capacity to solve actual problems is never a matter of being smart. It's a matter of being resourceful, right? Resourceful, maybe intuitive, maybe determined and persistent in figuring something out that needs to be figured out. Maybe doing a good job of managing your own gumption, because if you've ever read Zen in the Art of Muscle Commandments, you know that those kind of TE issues can be gumption traps for people who aren't themselves extrovert thinkers. We can call it a lot of good things. The point of the whole video is that we shouldn't call it smart, because those of us who are actually smart don't have anything else, really. I mean, it's like, I do spend all of my time trying to convince everybody that, in fact, if the world were to care about being correct about stuff, were to care about maximally understanding the universe, consciousness, and everything, that the world would be spending most of their time watching my channel. But I acknowledge that almost nobody in the world cares about those things, and that's why I don't really have very many subscribers or anything, in part. The other thing is, as I said in a previous video, my problem is I can't be a better Jordan Peterson than Jordan Peterson, because unlike Jordan Peterson, I don't accept that that or anything else is my specific job. So that's part of being smart too, right? It's like, it's when we remember, you never get half a stick. You always get the whole stick. Everybody here is paying attention to the fact that I'm talking about this top half of the stick because I'm making a point. But they're forgetting that I also have to carry around with me the bottom half of the stick where all the gross poo and stuff is on it. And I'm incredibly dumb. You never get outlier status on any metric without equivalent negative outlier status on a comparable metric. And that's the truth for me as well. Yes, I'm the smartest person on YouTube. Yes, I'm one of the dumbest people on the planet. And both those things are true. Because the opposite of smart isn't dumb, it's stupid. By my arbitrary coining by my arbitrary delineation of the distinctions here. Okay, not for any other reason than that. But the point is, if you evaluate me on my space, my organizational logic of my life, my choice making in terms of what I work on, last night I swear it had to be close to 12 hours on this stupid fucking meditation video. That was stupid, but I was dumb. Because that's not something I should have been spending my time on. I don't even remember when. I do remember the specifics of it too, and the process was just insanely. Like, who would try to make anything that stupidly? Well, Eric would because he's dumb. But it's not because he's not smart. It's because smartness doesn't have anything to do with that shit. Unfortunately, I wish it did. So now let's look at some people who really, really don't get it, you know? In terms of just not getting any of it. Because the first thing to recognize here is that I am what you see. You get what you see. There's nothing hidden or if I'm doing something because I'm mad or jealous or feeling insecure, I will say I'm feeling insecure right now, you know, stuff like that. But for people who are very accustomed to being driven by, I guess, their own emotions and stuff, then they get very, very angry at me. Like Nabs Napster here. One of these adults calls people dumb like a child at a schoolyard, scraping for anything that'll boost their insecurity-ridden ego. You mean riddled ego? How Nabs Napster? I mean, the thing is, the other has literally saved people's lives, and in his humility weeps for the suffering. And as I said here, it's so weird when people project all these feelings-based frames of theirs onto me. I mean, the thing is, I do call him dumb like a child in the schoolyard. Your hypothesis that I'm scraping for something that's going to boost my insecurity-ridden, riddled ego, I mean, the truth is, I'm not insecure at all. This is not a bluster that's masking insecurity. I'm actually this confident. Because I have good reason to be. I mean, this is the kind of stupid-ass shit that I'm up against. It's a heaping pile of burning trash, mostly comprised of dirty diapers. Like, those things he says. So, okay, maybe Jordan Peterson is not more humble than I am, but less humble than I am, because he doesn't have the confidence I have. Confidence stems from actual humility, not pretend humility, or not displays of humility. The thing is, the actual truth is, Nabs Napster, I weep for the suffering of others as much, if not more than anybody. I can't fucking tolerate even 10 seconds of it without crying. And when I see it in TV shows and stuff. I'm very childlike in my emotions. So, is being more childlike in my emotions than Jordan Peterson make me a better person? No, of course not. That's insane. The other, Jordan Peterson has literally saved people's lives. I mean, that's like, do you have specific people in mind, or are you just saying like you just making that claim? Even if he has, again, not relevant to his smartness or my smartness, or whether anything I'm saying is correct. Neither is the observation that I'm using childish name calling. Neither is the observation that he weeps for suffering that save people's lives. Those aren't relevant. This scraping for anything that'll burst the insecurity riddled ego thing, that would be a warrant to dismiss what I was saying only if you could establish, first of all, that arguments driven by insecurity are necessarily wrong, which they're not. So even if you were correct that all the things I were saying were driven by my insecurity, which you're definitely not, it still wouldn't matter. But this is what happens when you get, but probably I'm guessing a TI polar here, and rather hostile towards it. And very hostile towards what's admittedly a lack of egalitarian reverence. You know, I'm not going around saying, hey, I'm not special. I'm saying, yes, I am special. And I am the smartest person on YouTube. And I am unbelievably correct about things. Shockingly so. More so than I realized until I started actually talking to shit tons of other people. I didn't understand just how much of an outlier I was. So, the thing is, if you want empirics about my outlier status, then you're missed the point entirely. I don't have an IQ score to give you. Like I said in the last video, to meaningfully evaluate intelligence or smartness or whatever requires complex standards that allow you to do nuanced critique and not just some conversion to a number that doesn't represent anything. Discrete, right? It supposedly represents this mishmash of different things that make up general intelligence. But that's the sort of nonsense one comes up with when one doesn't have a proper frame of reference that says attention makes it such that intelligence doesn't work like that. Okay, so I don't want to play this game here. I don't think I even read this. What are some examples of people that fit your definition of actually smart? I said, naturally, me, duh. I even burned Sean Ryan Barron, whom I like a lot and everything, because of this silly comedy left. So your claim is that every person who gets a high score on an IQ test is definitely not very smart? Okay. A little hyperbole, maybe. Can you cite actual data proving that all people who score high on IQ tests are specifically not smart? No, the point is, Sean Ryan Barron, smart's not a discrete trait that can be measured like that. And so if you do score high on something that measures like that, it's not measuring the thing, it's claiming the measure. But I didn't... Okay, so surely a master of words can allow for a more nuanced statement. Well, yeah, that's true. And, you know, it's a fine line I have to walk between being interesting, being provocative, and being fully explanatory, being correct, and being sort of likable, while also being honest. In other words, I will always look like somebody who's wildly misplaced in finding himself in obscurity based on any kind of metric that's universalizable as a value worth upholding, besides simply people liking it. So it is true that not very many people agree with my statements about myself. Probably a vast majority of people have never heard them, and probably a slim majority of people who have heard them just think I'm some crazy old toothless nut, you know, who does drugs and is obviously has an executive function disorder of some sort. So I mean, it's like, yeah, I understand that I'm not going to win a lot of quick converts to this advocacy, because it's a bold and broad claim. It's a big claim, and I gotta say, it represents definitely growth for me. It's like okay, I'm just going to have to own this shit, Because I'm not good enough at talking around the truth to position this well without relying on my most reliable positioning weapon, which is honest, transparent, full disclosure. So that's what you get. And if you're not yourself unable or unwilling to evaluate what I'm saying on its merits, then you'll find what I'm saying extremely compelling in its preferability to alternatives. You might also be able to find a moment or two where I could have been more precise in my language. Because like I said, I've got to balance multiple vectors. Let's go down a little bit more. Why is it that every TI person is annoyed with JP? People don't appreciate him for his smarts, but for his insight, spirit, and courage. People find his message inspiring and motivating. They don't praise his superior IQ. I said, so he's successful because people enjoy how he's a bimbo saying rah, rah, rah? I mean, I did fail to anticipate your argument. I'll give you that much at least. And then Napster says, look how smart I am. No one can understand or keep up with what I'm saying. Talking to myself, where does one draw the line between an asylum lunatic and someone as smart as Eric, eh? Well, I mean, if you genuinely can't understand what I'm saying, then you probably won't be able to draw that line yourself, and you'll need to reference somebody who's smarter than you. When you perform action or speech that comes from negativity, it ricochets back at you. Well, I wasn't coming from negativity, right? I am critiquing and establishing that this needs correcting, but that's not fundamentally a negative position unless you mistake positions for people. So my position here is that people need to think differently about Jordan Peterson and probably hold me in a lot higher regard, or at least that if they were to do so, people would be much more nuanced in their discussions about public policy and be generally more correct because I'd at least give them the best argument that they can make for even if they don't want to change their position, right? So it is the case that whatever positions you hold, chances are you're not arguing them as well as you could. So I'd rather you argue a wrong position better than a right position worse, because that's more important ultimately. And that's something that you're probably not going to value, and it's okay. Not everybody has to value what I have to offer. But the reason you're not valuing what I have to offer is because you don't understand it. In other words, you can't afford it with your parsing legitimacy on its merits, and so you're having to use some kind of heuristic to judge me. And the heuristic you're using is, does this guy seem to be approaching life, these questions, everything, with sufficient humility? Now, because you don't understand what real humility is, which is, of course, openness to being corrected, as here I go going down these things and reading what people say about me. Of course, Napster is also incredibly blind about himself, because this is the third negative comment he's directed at me, and it's kind of funny. So he says, allow the anger, annoyance to pass through. Don't hold on to it. It's like a cold. I don't hold on to it at all. I've vented onto these videos, and I don't think about it again at all. That's why I make these videos. So because it's like if I don't talk out what I'm thinking about, then I might actually feel some of these feelings you keep attributing to me. So this person, okay, I wanted to listen and agree, but that was proof without any proof, based on circumstantial, skewed, or biased evidence. No, it wasn't based on any of those things. It was based on reasoning and arguments that I made that said specific things that you ignored. Because now, Serene, you are one of those people that I tend to name call. And the name I tend to call people like you is a dumbass motherfucker. Where's this cutting edge philosophy of yours? It's cutting your face every fucking day, Karma's Pamp, so shut up. He's skating around the concept of God. This guy's talking about JP's utilitarian understanding of religion, which you might say mine is as well, although I would point out that no, because I'm not making utilitarian justifications. I'm saying justifications of that sort are argumentational in nature and not appropriate to a behavior like faith, which is not the position Jordan Peterson is making. Is my position better? Absolutely. it's much less vulnerable to arguments. You say, but that's not the final arbiter of everything. Yeah, it is, publicly. For all of us, it is. In other words, the winning argument does win the argument because it's most correct, or because the person who had the most correct argument failed to show up to rebut it. Diamond says, what if both of you are smart? Well, then the word smart doesn't mean anything anymore. That's what we're trying to, that's the whole point, right? That because society, people, everyone keep using the word smart in two very distinct ways, we need to stop doing that. And you might say, well, it's not fair of you to claim smart for your kind of way, Eric, and deny it to the other kind of way. Well, fine, but I mean, it's more correct. It's like, I'm certainly not efficient or useful or good at solving real world problems or practical or organized or any of those things. And yet, I seem to have some sort of capacity to ideate with a robustness unmatched by anybody I ever see, to parse those ideations in both novel and, generally rock solid ways. I make careless mistakes. I get corrected by INTPs. I sometimes get my own TI questions wrong in typing sessions, because being smart is not about being mistake free. Being smart is not about being practical. Being smart is, it's like, in order to have words mean things again, so that people like Diamond aren't confused by my video, so that people like Nellis don't completely get it ass backwards all the way from the bottom of his colon to the top of his lower intestine. You don't end up with people like Napster who's so unable to understand even the idea of addressing what I'm saying directly on its merits, that he genuinely probably believes that all these feelings and reactivity he has is actually something he's seeing in me. I don't think he's aware he's projecting, right? Gabriel Gonzalez says this: you're too smart for your own good. And I said, true, but I'm not too smart for your own good, so that's something. Well, I'll tell you what, one thing it is, it's an extraordinarily snappy retort. And that's part of being smart. It's not very useful, not very practical, but it's definitely very smart. And clever, If you want to say I'm not clever, then you're just determined to shit on me no matter what. Pug Ninja says, does it really matter? So much, more than 50, maybe more than 100 even, is what I said, because it's a stupid question. You watched the video, moron. Did you think it mattered? I mean, the point is, it does matter to me for the reasons I've articulated. I don't think we should be in a world where people are so hugely confused about what the word smart means. I don't think we should be in a world where actually smart people are denied access to that label, while also appropriately being denied access to every other goods label because they aren't those things. So, it's just a basic fairness thing, right? And then Nabster hilariously writes a fourth comment saying, too long didn't watch, and then make sure I understand what TLDW is by spelling it out for me. As I indicated, that's fine. You chose to leave 4 comments about the thing you didn't watch instead, so that's definitely your prerogative. And then Kong Dong, Jordan Peterson FC Vietnam, informed me that I was lost. I asked for clarification, naturally. As in, I don't know my location, nor how to get someplace I recognize. He hasn't replied, so it's impossible to say what he means by that. I'm not lost in any literal sense. I know very well where I am. I think what he means metaphorically is that I'm a lost person. I have no direction or don't know who I am or what I... Of course, nothing could be further the truth. The thing that pisses people off so much is that, in fact, I know very so clearly who I am, and It's impossible to shake my self-concept because it's not built of subjective stuff. Since I'm polar in my subjective deliberation, and I'm balanced in how I utilize my two knowledge functions between the particularist and the universal, it's very rare that I'm subject to particularist biases moving me away from what's most universally sustainable as a communicative element, right? So I have that benefit. I also have this sort of curse that because I too project my frame of reference, I forget or don't care, one of the two, that when you shit on someone's sacred cow, they get all butthurt about it. Now, for me, it's just like, well, this will be a lark and a good amount of views. Anytime I stick Jordan Peterson in a title, I get hundreds of views right away. You know, like 600 views in less than 20 hours. That's good for me. It wouldn't be good for Jordan Peterson, but it's very good for me. Now, you might say, well, Eric, you're just jealous. I mean, I wouldn't say so much jealous as insistent that if people want correctness or intelligent discourse on intellectual matters, they'd be much well served to watch me. Much more well served to watch me than watching Jordan Peterson or Sam Harris or somebody like that. I mean, I'm a lot more correct. Somebody here in the comments said, what makes you think you're a good debater? I mean, to even ask me that question, you really have to just willfully refuse to have listened and evaluated things I said on their merits at all. Because I'm not always on, and some of my videos are sloppy, some of my videos are messes, some of my videos are on point but not particularly analytical. Some of them are too analytical and just dense and boring, but maybe still smart in a correctness sense, but just not dynamic enough. Because, I mean, the thing is, when we're talking about smartness as I mean it, what I'm talking about is a capacity to communicate things that can change people's paradigms in dramatic, meaningful ways. So, in other words, I'm right about evolution being bullshit. But the vast majority of the civilized world has affirmed it as a foundational frame of reference. So, in this instance, we're talking about something where my arguments win all of the arguments, and I have argued with shit tons of people about it, and I have never even lost a single point. I mean, not even close. I argue with evolutionary scientists, actual evolutionary scientists, one anyway, about it. And at the end of it, he was so left grasping for some shred of an explanation that he said, you don't understand. There's just a rhythm to things. I said, okay, magical crystal boy. Thanks for your wonderful science explanation. Anyway, the point is, so why am I making a point about being smarter than Jordan Peterson? Why am I making a point about how everyone should listen to Eric and stuff? Well, I mean, if they did, the world would change dramatically more towards the correct. Which means if people change, if people are operating under fundamentally wrong foundational frames like evolution to justify their claims about things like evolutionary psychology, quote unquote, well, I mean, you end up with the ridiculousness that is Jordan Peterson. What do I mean by that? If you watch any Jordan Peterson at any length, you'll maybe become curious about something I've become curious about over the years. What is it with these pesky hunter-gatherers? Doesn't it seem like hunter-gatherers are always already mostly evolved, completely evolved, except for that one trait that we need to explain with evolution? Seems that way to me, and it seems to me that in all these explanations, it's always the hunter-gatherers who are evolving. We never hear about, well, the reason you like the people that prefer this is because in the Industrial Revolution, we underwent a genomic change. You never hear anything of the sort like that. You just hear about these mystical hunter-gatherers And you end up with things like what I saw in a Jordan Peterson video. Somebody asked him in one of his classes, why do you think people are more likely to purchase things in advertisements that feature a lot of the color red? And Jordan Peterson says, ripe fruit. You see, back when people were hunter-gatherers, they were hungry for food, and they had an advantage to seeing red fruit. So, naturally, now we buy cars when they're in advertisements and are red more than if they're another color. I mean, the appalling, ridiculously simplistic and reductive bullshittery that is that thing should make everybody either laugh out loud or cry out loud and or dance at the hilarity awesomeness that is fucking the stupidness that passes for things of intelligence in this world, right? Obviously, first of all, most ripe fruits not red. What? I mean, doy. Number two, most things that are red are more likely to be poisonous than things you can eat. Number three, what did they do before they developed this important evolutionary trait of being able to spot red things if they were so reliant upon that for eating? Number four, did the whole tribe just sort of develop this favoring of red at once? Or was one guy amongst all the hunter-gatherers so much more advantaged by his attraction to the color red that he rewrote the entire genome of the species by what? Gaining exclusive mating rights over every female in existence? It's insane. It makes no mathematical or logical sense at all. And Jordan Peterson gave that actual answer to that question. Why do people buy things more in advertisements where there's red? Ripe fruit. If you think, after hearing this true and accurate representation of something that actually happened with Jordan Peterson, where he explained to a class full of college students that this explanation explained people's preference regarding color, and you still think Jordan Peterson's smart, you need to slap yourself first here, then here, then here again, 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 then here again. Okay? And you need to slap yourself until you slap the stupid out of you. Because nobody, after hearing that little anecdote, can possibly claim that Jordan Peterson is a smart man. So, look, Jordan Peterson obviously no Nabs Nabster. I'm sorry, Nabs, but you're an idiot. But he's not a smart person like me, is the point. He's instead practical and useful to people, and he cries at their suffering, and he's so wise, and he saves lives, and all that other shit. And all that's great. And he's able to do that because he is not smart. Doy.